Welcome, everybody, and happy Thursday night. This is Tech Charged, a Turn Down for What podcast live. Joining me in the darkness is road trip warrior Chase Craft Miller. Every time he goes by a street light, maybe we'll get a glimpse of him.
Here I am.
Where are you driving tonight, Mr. Jace?
So we are headed to northern Michigan, Houghton Lake, Michigan to be exact. My parents live up there. Usually very common road trip for us, but it's been a while. We were very busy this summer and had a lot going on. We're doing some gardening and all that kind of stuff. So we did not get up there since I think the last time we were up there was like February or March. So it's been a little while. So usually it's like once every month or once every 2 months. So this is actually the first time we've taken one of our new Platinums up.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. You get a road trip to Platinum.
Yes,
Very
sir.
cool. Yeah, so it's for those that don't know, lots of road tripping going on tonight. So we thought we'd do a little bit of a later episode than usual. Martin is not going to be with us. He is on his first road trip as well in a new truck.
Yes.
He just got done rebuilding his new Lightning. That one is a Lariat, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, nice bright
Rapid
red
red.
color. Yeah, he's heading up to our friends up north in Canada. So he is traveling that way, and then Jason, his first road trip in the Platinum, heading to Michigan. So we thought be a good night for some EV road trip conversations. For the last month, I've been testing out different NACS to CCS adapters. So I'm going to kind of show some of those and talk about them. Some news today out of Ford, just talking about their DC fast chargers at dealers, which is really cool to see. And then as a group, we were just kind of talking about the Tesla lease deals. And for those who haven't seen them, you can get a Tesla Model 3 or a Model Y. It's super cheap for 1 or 2 year leases with zero down. Caveat being, some of them have incredibly high miles. Very unusual to lease a used car. I've actually been looking to grab one if I can find the right deal, but it's been hard here in California. But we thought we'd touch on that because that's an unusual thing that I haven't seen very often. How much, you're a lease king, Jace, when it comes to leasing. Nobody does it better. Is that common? I haven't seen many places do a lease on a used, especially like 80 to 100,000 miles, like some of these are.
Yeah, no, I didn't know it was possible, to be honest with you. I mean, I guess, I'm sure there's certain circumstances, but I especially like you said, with vehicles with 100,000 miles on it, that really surprises me. But I think it's a really clever way to get, people into a Tesla who maybe wouldn't, have been able to, or like you, Chris, just looking to kind of, replace a second car or maybe add a third car. And, with the $4,000 tax credit, coming to an end, I think a lot of people are making the move, whether, no matter what brand it is. I mean, I think we're seeing a lot of traction with people trying to jump on and make it happen before these tax credits expire.
Yeah, I kind of, my thought was maybe what they're doing is with those tax credits, a bunch of people might be thinking now's the time, if ever, to trade in my Tesla for a new one, maybe the Model Y Juniper, maybe the new Model 3, which I know isn't, spanking new anymore, but still was recently refreshed. And maybe now's that time that folks are thinking, hey, let me trade in my 2020, 2021, 2022. Let me get the new hotness. And,
we're seeing people do it with Cybertrucks even,
yeah,
just for a new Cybertruck.
Yeah. So as they trade those things in, now Tesla's like, well, crap, now I got all this used inventory. What the heck am I going to do with it? If they can set up a lease deal with somebody, then maybe that makes sense. Get some entry into an EV. And
maybe we'll see a few high mileage Cybertrucks pop up on there. That'd be interesting.
That would be interesting. So far, when I look on the site, it's only doing it for Model 3 and Model Y, and only doing it in a few states. So you have to put your zip code in, and depending on what your zip code is, you may or may not have availability to the lease deal. So, California, I've seen a bunch of them in New Jersey, New York, Maine, just some Florida, and as I'm searching, some of the best deals are on the East Coast. I can't find any on the West. If I can find, my target's been kind of $250. If I can get a $250 2-year lease. That gets me to 2027. And that's when, Ford releases their new platform, R2. I think R2 technically comes out next year, but it's not like I'm going to get that first batch will be like always, it's going to be the higher spec trim that I'm not looking for,
Yeah. What, out of curiosity, what's the highest lease payment that you saw and the lowest lease payment that you saw?
Yeah, the lowest was like $180. That was a Model 3.
Oh, wow.
The
Okay.
lowest Model Y I've seen is $225, and then the highest I'm seeing is in the $400 range. At which point you have to consider, am I better off just getting a brand new one and leasing it at that point?
Yeah.
And then it's depending on the year and the mileage, and some of them were loaner vehicles for Tesla. Some of them have been repaired. So depending on what's all happened on the history, the price obviously goes lower. And then some of them even I've been keeping an eye on, like, hey, if I can find one in, Arizona or Vegas or Oregon, and some of them are throwing in like 3 months of free FSD and 3 months of free supercharging. I'll go jump on a Southwest flight. I'll grab one in one of those states, and that's within a day or two's drive, and then it's on free supercharging, and I can use FSD the whole way back. So I'm like,
that's true. You could bring it all the way home for free.
Yeah. So you know what I mean? Like now, if you want it shipped, you can get it shipped. And if it's coming from the West Coast, it's like $1,000 to have it shipped. But again, at that point, I'm just going to grab a Southwest flight and do it myself.
Sure.
Or if it comes from back east, it's anywhere from $2,000 to $2,500. But then, like, what's the point of the deal at that point? You've kind of lost the entire value of it if you're doing that.
Unless it's one of those really crazy cheap ones and you find maybe the perfect one. But yeah, I mean, the nice part is, like you said, though, like if you really had to, FSD all the way home, so that's pretty cool, and free supercharging too. So maybe you could find even one halfway or something.
Yeah, and that's I ping that website. I swear to you, like 10 times a day, looking. And every once in a while, I'll see one that's tempting, just tempting. I'm like, that's 285, and I really didn't want to go above 250. Do I want to look at it? And I swear, within an hour, it's gone. I mean, unless you're literally sitting there refreshing it constantly, I bet there's been a deal or two that I'm just not even aware of because it's gone so quick. So it's a smart move by Tesla. They're moving their inventory and making deals. So I'm here for it if I can grab one. It's I figure by the time you, like you were saying, by the time you get the free supercharging, if it's available, and you do the FSD, that just makes a fun road trip. And then if my wife's not paying for gas anymore, that replaces a gas vehicle. And it would just be fun to do. So hey, if anybody in the audience spots one of these things on the website, man, shoot me the link right away. And I'll jump on it, but kind of looking for that sub 250 area. And I'd love to find a Model Y, preferably something on the West Coast.
I kind of wonder if they're doing this, just right now before, the tax credit expires. And I wonder if it makes sense for them to do it after that $4,000 expires, because that's a big, help in the payment to kind of make that happen. So be kind of, that could cover somebody's down payment. So be interesting to see if they continue that.
Yeah, I'm curious for sure. There's still another whole month to go of the tax incentives, and then what happens with pricing after that, who knows. So definitely, I just thought it was fun. And then just the snarky troll in me also, it's I don't know, once a month or so that I'm engaging somewhere on a conversation about EVs, and I'll give some feedback about a Tesla, and somebody will be like, you don't even own one. How would you know? Or have you even been in a Tesla? And I'm like, dude, if I could just buy, or if I could just lease a cheap Tesla, and then now I can criticize it. Now I have covered. Now I'm like, look, I'm as a Tesla owner.
Yeah. I was thinking about that today. It's funny you said that. I was literally thinking, I'm like, well, if Chris gets a Tesla, he'll have them both. So he can kind of, he'll be like Matt, Lynn, or, all these guys who got them both.
Right. Yeah. Because I've spent a day in one, or the Cybertruck for 3 days or whatever, but that's not the same as owning it. I feel like I've been around them enough that I have a pretty good impression. I know enough people with them that I have a pretty good idea. But look, if they respect it only if you're an owner, great. Now I can be like, I'm going to start off every post with, as an owner.
I love
but they're really hard to find, and like I say, it only makes sense if it's just one of those great deals, and then at the end of 2 years you get rid of it, and they give you like some of them are 2022, so there's still some stock warranty remaining. So if there is, you get this whatever warranty is remaining for the balance of that, and then from the end of that 4-year warranty or whatever it is, I think Tesla's a 4-year 50,000 mile, I think is what theirs is. So if it's past that period, then they do an additional 1 year, 10,000 miles. And the way my wife drives, that's perfect. Like, she's a school teacher locally here, so she's not putting a lot of road trip miles on there. If we do road trips as a family, it's in the Lightning. So yeah, it all just kind of makes sense. That deal makes sense for us. And I could make a ton of cool videos just with a Tesla as well. So
I was gonna say that whole video, like if you went even from like Colorado or something like that, I think that video would do really well,
Yeah, I think it would be fun. So I hope I find something, because it would be fun to have. It'd be fun to get all electric here, get out of that gas thing, get the gas savings, and then just make a
what
fun
would
video.
you sell your you have Ford Edge, right? Would you sell that to Carvana or?
I probably would not sell it because this is a lease and you're going to give it back in 2 years. And there's that Edge, man. That Edge is a beast. It has been going strong now for 13 years and
paid off, so might as well just keep her.
Right. For the value of it, I might as well have it as that second car, because from time to time, hey, it might be a 40, 50, 60, 70,000 mile Tesla, even under warranty. If it's got to go into the shop, I got an extra car. If there's a recall on the Lightning for something that puts it in for a week, I've got the extra car. And then, when the time comes, I think if I traded in on something or sell it, I'd want to do it for something I was going to purchase, or I could sell it and take that money and like pop it into an investment for a couple of years or something. But I think I'd rather have the security of the extra car. But we can, that's something we've discussed. But that Edge is great. It's got a nice solid clunk to the door. It's limited. It's got the all leather interior. Again, my wife doesn't drive a lot, so it doesn't even have 100,000 miles on it yet.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's not like, and that's the thing too, is I'm looking because I think it would be fun, not because I have a need. Like I don't need another car. It would just be fun to have all electric, and it would just be fun to have something different. And I will kind of I'd love my wife to get in and experience it, and just to kind of drive home. She indulges me with the electric vehicle stuff, but it's not her passion. But I'd love to see her daily drive an electric. And I think it could become like, okay, like everybody else that's put their butt in an electric vehicle, like, oh man, I'm never going back. You know what I mean? I'd love to open that door for her. She's driven my truck before, but again, as a daily driver, I think it'd be different. Yeah,
definitely. No, that totally makes sense. Hopefully you guys find something.
Yeah. So that'll be fun. I keep searching. But again, lots of folks in my Tesla orbit out there. So if you guys come across them, I got Joe from Tesla Owners Club, San Joaquin Valley, who's on the prowl trying to find me one. He's reached out to a couple of his buddies. It's funny, Tesla's going to Tesla, man. So Joe's reached out to like 2 or 3 of his contacts. Not one of them has called me back.
Wow.
I filled out the form on the website saying I had interest. They called me this morning at just a really bad time. I was like, hey, can you just give me a call back in 30 minutes? I'm right in the middle of a meeting, but I'd love to chat. And like, yeah, we'll call you back. Never called me back. So I'm like, dude, I'm trying to buy a Tesla, guys. I'm doing my best to try to support the movement, and they're not making it easy.
Yeah. Yep. Well, hopefully, they'll give you a call tomorrow or something, and you can find us something. And at least, like you said, you have a lot of feelers out there, so that's good.
Yeah, and there's some other folks doing deals. I think Mach-E's got some deals out there, but they're not zero down. There's a bunch of others that are doing, they're anywhere from like 2,000 to, even the Ford Lightning. We were seeing on a post today, I think it was $399 and $2,000 down. That, that's a standard range or something, but like an XLT, I think. But yeah, my wife doesn't want to troll around in a truck. You know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, that is the hunt. And when now we're kind of talking about road trips. Martin's on his, you're going on yours. Like, what is your strategy? I know you just literally charged up before we started the show. Was that at a Tesla supercharger?
It was not. So,
Okay.
kind of like I've been talking about, the last couple days, we are actually trying the Ford Nav just for fun. It's got some nice features to be able to replace some of the chargers. I love that it has intelligent range, so that Apple Maps and Google, obviously kind of took that away a little bit. You don't have to do mental math as much anymore. You've got the percentage on arrival, but it's nice that the actual guessometer will change, and here, and over here in Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania-ish, but particularly in Northeast Ohio and Michigan, the Tesla supercharger network is just not super huge. It hasn't been. I mean, we bought our Mach-E originally, without obviously the Tesla supercharger network at the time, but without EA, we wouldn't have probably purchased an EV. There were a couple EA stations that made this exact trip actually possible. Only because they were on the turnpike, and at the time there were no Tesla superchargers on the turnpike. That has since changed, but it was only EA. So CCS was kind of the thing here. There was a lot of CCS, a lot of V2 superchargers is kind of old. They didn't really have them like right off the highway. CCS, like I said, the turnpike partnered with Electrify America, so that was like huge for us, and kind of like I said, spurred us to be able to get an EV, to be able to make the road trip that we need to make pretty often. So we have so like I said, we're trying for nav. We always have a different strategy. It always just depends. I feel like we put in a route and so much changes, right? Like, I drank a little too much coffee before we, left. I got to go to the bathroom, so you can only make it as far as you can make it. And we were planning on actually only doing one stop tonight, but we had to use the restroom. The dogs wanted to get out and move around. And so we made a detour real quick and stopped, and it was nice. That was the fastest charge speed that I've ever seen personally. Remember, I had a standard range Lariat before this, so the fastest I saw the day that I actually totaled my truck was the fastest I ever saw. It was 183 kilowatts, and so I just saw 191, and that was at 57% state of charge. So that was great. I think we did 18 kilowatt hour. Was it 18 kilowatt hour in 14 minutes or something like that? I don't know. I can't remember.
Yeah,
I took a picture of it, but it was good. It was a good stop. EV Go in Ottawa Lake, which is a Pilot Flying J station. So expensive, but again, we just it's all over the place here. We just never know exactly when we're going to want to stop or need to stop. And so tonight we stopped real quick and we wanted to grab a bite to eat too. So yeah.
I'm always reminded that the charge networks are so different around the country, because in EV Go, where I'm at, they're like 50 kilowatts, and there's some bigger ones, but there's not very many of the high powered EV Goes. But like my best charging was in the Platinum, because I too came from a standard range, so I've never seen those big numbers until I came across the country. And I did, I think, 3 or 4 Electrify America stops, and then I did one Iona out in Kansas.
I wish we had one that I could try.
Oh man,
there is not an Iona on the way, unfortunately.
Man, shout out Brandon Flash and his those HYC 400s, man. And I used one in Norway, by the way. I used one in Norway. It was super fun. Now that Norwegian one, because we were in a Zeekr, that thing ripped at 375 kilowatts, man.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
That was nuts. But like that 190 is the most kind of ballpark that I've seen. But I've never seen it on a Tesla. Tesla seems to have a little bit more of a thermal limit or something going on there. It doesn't quite hold it. The charge curve is long. And I had, famously, you and I have gone back and forth on the Tesla. Same with the electric duo, formerly Mach-E Vlog. We would talk back and forth about my assistance that you had to have Tesla access, just because so many of the EV Goes around here and the Electrify Americas had been so bad, but they've gotten so much better. And I even on a video apologized to Electrify America. I'm like, dude, I've been too hard on you, because some of my best charging was on those non-Tesla units. Now the Tesla ones, you got so many, especially out here in California, where they might have 40, 50, 80.
Yeah. See, it's so crazy because that just does not exist here. And not just Tesla, like no one has that, I mean,
Yeah.
we're pulling up like the EV Go that we just had. You're talking 2 chargers, simultaneous charging. So 4, vehicles, basically 4 ports. And that's, you're seeing at most 8 to 10 superchargers, never more than 10, not around here. So it's fascinating because that makes sense. I would totally stop at a supercharger if I knew, there's a nice, restroom to use, restaurant, whatever, and there's 80 spots, so there's going to be something available. But yeah, we just that doesn't exist here.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, in California, where you've got things like Harris Ranch and Kettleman City and Lost Hills, and some of these stops that are right before the Grapevine. There's a great one at the Tejon Pass outlets. Now that one's weird because it closes when the mall closes, which is super odd because there's no reason to do that. It must be something with an agreement, just because the mall closes doesn't mean the chargers need to, but they do.
Yeah.
But it's a cool mall to go and grab some stuff. So when you're traveling up and down California, there's so many cool spots with so many chargers, and it's just the risk reward. Maybe it charges a little bit slower than an EA, but it charges a lot faster than an EA that's broken, or a lot faster than an EA that you got to wait in line for. So
exactly.
Baker famously is like that. That Baker is one of the biggest EAs out there in California, but man, it's only got I want to say like 12 or something. I can't remember the number. There's like this coming up Labor Day holiday. They're gonna have lines at Baker, guaranteed. Meanwhile, right next to it is a Tesla supercharger, and unfortunately, we can't use them because because it's a mix of V2s and V3s, and so there's like 80 of them just sitting there, and you're like, oh, this is killing me. Like, look how many. So I don't go there. I go to Barstow or something if I'm going that direction.
Yeah. Well, and for us in this trip, it's funny because there is only one V3 or V4 period, a V3 plus supercharger in northern Michigan. So, and it's not where we're going. It's in Mackinac, right up by the UP. So it's crazy that there's a few sprinkled in V2s, not very many, but there's just not any V3 superchargers. It's kind of crazy. So hopefully, I know I've seen a few people put in, votes, to get a supercharger, a V3 or V4 added up there. Cause I mean, they need like 4 or 5 of them really, to be honest with you. But nothing yet, but that the good news is Rivian has put in a few, especially because it's, up there in the wilderness. And, so Rivian has done a few, and, like I said, CCS is really prevalent. Michigan's done a really nice job of partnering with a bunch of people, and like I said, I won't say they have a lot of chargers at every station, but for the most part, it's pretty well spaced out. But I mean, we're going to we stop at a few of these chargers that they only have 1/2 ports. That's it. So it's that's part of it too, especially up here, is I'll go on and look and see if they're available. If not, we might just continue on instead of waiting. And luckily, we've got a lot of options, but sometimes with only 2 spots, especially here in Michigan, you've got a lot of people who, are coming up from Detroit, testing EVs, and they might work for Ford or GM, and so they drive an EV, and it's definitely becoming more prevalent. But the good news is lots of stations, so that's good.
Now you've been using the native nav, which Robert swears by, and
Yes.
I kind of like EA. I have honestly avoided quite a bit just because aesthetically it's not the greatest, most pleasing thing, and in the standard range I didn't have any access to the Tesla chargers. Well, not any access is not the right word. You had to do it in a kind of a creative way as a favorite, which I had done. I had plugged in a whole bunch of them, and I actually kind of wish in that kind of elegant Tesla way that those favorites would have been saved on a profile that then could port over to every Ford I ever was in. So hopefully with the future generation, Ford will kind of keep that in mind as a user profile, because
cloud-based user profile.
Yeah, that would be super cool. But how have you found that? Because now you do have Tesla chargers, and you've been traveling with the native nav now, and How's that been working for you? And is it easy? Can you tell, like when you're looking at it, does it give you an idea like, hey, there's 4 there, 1 is up, all 4 are being used right now, or 3 out of 4 are available? Like, what kind of information has that been giving you? Because I honestly haven't been using it too much.
That's a good question. Let's see what it does here. If I know there is live charger data, but I don't know exactly what networks. So I'm not sure if, like the one that, let's see.
Is Justin co-piloting? You got to get him on the case, man. Get him clicking around.
Let's see. So details 4 available. Yeah. So
Does
it
tell
does
you.
have. So it just says Ultra Ford network plug and charge network and Electrify America connectors. Yeah, 350 4 available. Gives you the pricing, a rating, which is cool, and then how the opening hours as well. So pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, that's great. Then you can kind of click around and be like, all right, what's the price here? What's the price there? How many chargers are available? That's good to hear that's
And
been
the
improved.
nice part about this one is that you can easily you can tap on that charger and replace it and look around too, and filter while you're doing it. And so there was I wanted to go a little further than the one that it suggested. This was not today, but I was messing around with it the other day, same route that we're taking. And you're able to just filter, and I was able to very quickly basically choose the charger that's, 50 miles ahead of that one. Especially on the screen, you can't really do that with any of them.
Yeah, I was going to say, is that a list? Is that a text list of different chargers in the area, or can you see on the map where that charger is? So like if I'm going, northbound and I see a list of 7 chargers around me, I can't tell if that next one is on my route.
It does that little arrow, and it says how many miles ahead it is, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It points what direction it is. And then you can kind of filter through for, if you wanted, they've got 3, 2, 1 of fast charging levels, if you will.
Yeah. Man, I wish all of them would get to where it's on the screen so I can see where it is. I'm so visual that I want to see it on the map, and I want to touch it on the map and say, here's where I am. Take me there.
It might show you on the map. It's just got kind of a menu in front of it, so I'd have to go back and look and see. But yeah, I just know it worked well, comparative to everybody else. At least just being able to do it on the screen, which is nice. When you're driving and you just want to tap real quick and make a change. That's the only one that I know of that allows you to do that as of right now. So that's nice. But yeah, like we said, there are some shortcomings. Honestly, I'll be honest, I've always said that I didn't think it was the most aesthetically pleasing, and
yeah,
the menus and such aren't. But to be honest, when you have the map up, it doesn't really look much different than Apple Maps or a better route planner. I mean, it's very similar when you have the actual map going. The nice part I like about it is the customization. You can choose so many different things. You can say you want your distance left to display, or you could say time. All sorts of different options to display what you want. So that is really nice too. But one of the other shortcomings that people have mentioned, obviously, we kind of briefly touched on it, is the lack of the Tesla superchargers in it, and that is definitely unfortunate and needs to be changed. Ford does know this. For people out there listening, Ford does know this. They're actively working on it. I know it's been actually prioritized. So, according to Robert on Twitter, he said it, so I think I can say it. It is coming via OTA. And they will update that. My guess is, and this is just a guess, but my guess is why this has been delayed is because unlike the CCS network where you can say, okay, everybody can use this, so we can just add it in, they have to do a whole new step and, make sure that that you need an adapter to use a certain station. And then on top of that, also know that there are certain Tesla superchargers that you're never going to be able to use with or without an adapter. So I think in the actual logic of how the navigation system works, which is, by the way, not Ford, it's not in-house. That is, I believe, TomTom or
It's
Garmin.
it's Garmin. I made a joke one day at
Garmin.
an event. I was talking to Robert, and we were talking about why I don't use it, and I said, "Man, dude, it looks like 2005 Garmin." And I was saying it sarcastically, and he looks at me like deadpan. He's like, yeah, it is Garmin."
Yeah.
So it's yeah, that's who they use for their backend system is essentially Garmin.
Yep. And you can see that. But it's got live traffic. I mean, I've been pretty impressed with what I've seen as far as, the live data coming from it. It's all new for me. I don't use Ford Nav at all. I've always just used Apple Maps, especially once they did percentage on arrival, and honestly, even before that too. So definitely learning some things and seeing some things. But so far, yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. I don't really see. The cool part is you can also do, like, you can have your nav running, Ford Nav running, and then you can have a better route planner or Apple Maps in the background running as well.
Yeah, and speaking of that, shout out to SD Fuzzy, love the name, and the 40 others that are watching, by the way, late night on a Thursday. Thank
Nice.
you all for joining us. But he dropped a comment. He was just asking, have you experienced the Apple software for Nav on a road trip? Is it, accurate with syncing with the Lightning? I think you and I both use Apple.
Yep.
I found that the Apple Maps is what it's accurate in terms of how it syncs to state of charge. I think where I found it, I found it accurate, except that it's always arriving on the cautious side. So I kept showing up to a destination with like 15 to 25% state of charge, and I want to be below 10. And I would regularly, to me, I want to go further. I want to push the envelope. It seemed way too conservative for me, at least out here on the West Coast. Like, what have you experienced back east? It's not going to leave you stranded, that's for sure. But what did you see when you used it?
It's definitely not going to leave you stranded. That's very true. Yes, similar things. I will say sometimes in the winter, we don't have as big of an issue. With that, we get a little bit closer to the projection, but that's simply due to temperature. And that is one thing that I've kind of noticed, the difference between Apple Maps and Ford Nav. I don't know if Apple Maps takes weather or wind direction or anything like that into consideration.
Elevation, maybe?
Yeah, elevation. That's another one. Yeah, I do know that Ford does, so that's kind of cool, and it will actually show you the weather conditions at your destination, and you can look up the radar and see that. And Ford has this cool circle that, like, it circles your car, and it'll basically show you how far you can go in a radius. So that's kind of cool. Yeah, it's neat. I don't think I haven't seen anybody else that has that. To my knowledge, exactly, laid out like that. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, Apple Maps is very conservative. I think if I could guess, my guess is that Apple did that on purpose. Especially in the beginning, I think they wanted to get their calibrations right. I think in their head, right, it's better for somebody to be able to make it to a charger than not, if you will.
Yeah, I can tell you the one, like I say, I'd rather it be, I guess I would describe it this way. When I'm using like a better route planner or native navigation or something to that effect, what I found was I had to be really careful with my speed and make sure I was driving somewhere around 70 to 75 miles an hour on the freeway. But with Apple Maps, because I knew it was so conservative, I could go wide open 80, 85 miles an hour. And especially as I was coming across the country on some of those interstates in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of Kansas, in the middle of Utah. And I'd be going full tilt and no worries at all. I was going to, even if I was going less efficient, going 85 miles an hour, I had so much extra in the tank, so to speak. In the pack, I guess I should say, with Apple's routing that I knew I was fine. Whereas sometimes, with a better route planner, if I'm coming in at 2%, I gotta keep it. I'm in the right hand lane behind a truck at 70 to make sure I maintain that 2% sometimes.
Yep. Nope. That totally makes sense. Yeah. And I think from what I can gauge, the Ford Nav seems really, really, really accurate, which is nice. It doesn't seem to have the conservativeness that the Apple Maps does, so that is nice. I do like that so far. So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, so far so good. It does kind of do some wonky things without the Tesla superchargers. doesn't really seem to bother this route, but you know, I definitely, if I was driving somewhere other than where I am now, like we're going to Chicago for Electrify Expo in a couple weeks, I don't see us probably using Ford Nav. I mean, we could if we wanted to avoid superchargers, but there's no reason for us to do that, and so we will probably not use Ford Nav for that type of a trip. But yeah, but very interesting to try it out and see. I do hope the superchargers come soon, especially for you guys, you know, out there, and I feel like it's needed.
Yeah, I didn't realize the 24. So mine is the 25 does have Tesla in the native
Oh, that's right.
navigation.
Yeah, you do. Yes, that's right.
Yeah. The I had for whatever reason I thought the 24 did as well, but that's only the
No.
25. It sounds like.
Yep.
So interesting. You would think that would just be an easy push. I would love to know more about why it isn't, or maybe it is, and that's just they haven't gotten to that priority yet on the OTAs that need to go out.
I think that's definitely part of it, and I think, you know, as we know, Ford's very cautious with these things, and so they test and test and test and test and test, and yeah, I think it's like you said too. I think priority plays a role in that too, and you know, where we're at on the totem pole, you know.
Now, the other thing that kind of came out today was Ford, you know, just kind of championing and bringing some visibility to their dealer network and the DC fast chargers that they've installed now. And in my area, my dealer was supposed to put in at least two of the high-speed DC fast chargers, and then it just never happened. You know, it kind of fizzled. The closest one I've seen in my area, I don't even call it my area, really, Henderson, Nevada, and a trip that was literally 2 years ago. It was ACT Expo 2 years ago that I was going to Vegas, and on my way, I purposely went by Henderson, where they have a great Ford dealer, by the way. If anybody's anywhere near or is just a Ford fan and you want to go by, I want to say I screw up the order. It's either Country Ford or Ford Country. I can't remember which one it is. In Henderson, Nevada. The place is awesome. They've got a couple DC fast chargers, but way cooler is they have Mustang Sally's. They have a Mustang Sally's diner, and it's a classic. Oh, it's so cool, man. And so you bring your car in for service, you go by the diner, or you're there to charge it up for 40 minutes, which is what I did. And I went by the diner and I grabbed some food. And then by the time you're done, your truck is charged up. And then you get to check out the Broncos and the Mustangs and the Mach-E's and the stuff that's at the lot, all the fun cars. But it was such a cool little diner, man. But that's the only of the Ford branded DC chargers I've seen. Are they more prevalent? Being you're up there in Ohio and Michigan area, are you seeing more of them? Because I know they said they had 350, and I'm like, dude, I don't have any in my area. Like, what are you seeing for those?
No, not really. Which is interesting because you would think in Michigan that would be the case. And maybe that is the case elsewhere in the state of Michigan. We just aren't seeing it, you know, on the route that we drive. But interestingly, most Ford dealers, or a lot of them, I should say, maybe not most, but a lot of them do have chargers. But they've partnered with this company called Red E. Do you guys have those?
No, sometimes we'll see a couple DC, not DC. We'll see a couple level 2 chargers, but I haven't seen no other partnerships. They're like the Ford branded chargers is what I've seen.
Yeah, yep. These are Red E branded. There's a company called Red E. They have nationwide charging network, but it's very, very prevalent in Michigan. I'm obviously not sure why. There's quite a few in Ohio too. You have to look it up. It's RED space E. And so that was where we were going to stop tonight. If we just did one charge, and we didn't have to use the restroom and stuff, we would have done just one charge at Lasco Ford in Fenton, Michigan for I think it's a 160 kilowatt charger. And we would have charged there, it said, for 35 minutes, and we could have gotten away with just one charge. But like I said, we kind of needed to stop, so we did not do that. But yeah, that's kind of the ones that I see the most. And also I've here in Ohio and also in West Virginia and Pennsylvania, we saw a lot of Ford dealers with Blink chargers.
Yeah. I have seen some Blinks. The Joe's Adventures was asking, do you guys deal with superchargers slowing down to 90, even 80 kilowatt hours? Well, it's 90, 80 kilowatt hours would be what's in your pack. It's so hard to keep those straight.
It is.
Yeah, it really is, man. I always hate when I'm going back and I'm editing a video and I catch myself using the wrong one. I'm like, God, dang it, man. I'm going to get crap from people on this. So trust me, Joe, I'm not giving you crap. But yeah, so at 80, 90 kilowatts after 3 or 4 minutes of charging, or is that an Arizona summer problem? I don't see that. I have never, my typical charge curve, and I'll talk about it in a minute here. I have been testing all month a bunch of NACS to CCS adapters. So I've gotten really familiar with the curve. And what I see is I get that 500 amp boost for anywhere from 6 to 9 minutes. And I'm in the 170s to 180s on a Tesla charger. I don't really see the 190s unless I'm on an EA or an Alpatronic. And then that'll carry my, until, and it'll settle in at kind of in that 135 to 145 area, depending on pack voltage and other things. And then eventually that'll settle down to about 115 to 120. And that will seriously carry me all the way to 80%, man. It holds strong at that one. Now, on a Tesla charger, sometimes I'll see it dip down to like 105. I've seen some like 105s is about as low as, but it carries that 105 all the way. But in terms of 3 or 4 minutes being dropped down to below 100, honestly, I don't see below 100 ever. No, I shouldn't say ever, but very rarely. But I do know that the Lightning has Brandon Flash talks about this all the time. If you ever see some of his videos, he takes his adapters and he puts them in a cooler. He chills the adapters because of the pins on the Lightning. It'll derate the Lightning when the pins get hot. So Brandon's talked about that. Kyle, when he would do his races for Out of Spec, he used to wrap handles in cold water rags. And then I think Tesla got smart and they're like, oh, hey, they somehow algorithm that out. So I know heat matters. What do you, Jace, you have a lot more heat and a lot more humidity that I see out here in California, especially being along, the Bay Area spots. I don't get those 100-degree Arizona, Nevada. I don't get the humidity. Have you seen the 80 to 90 D rate?
Yes, but no. Just because we're sort of similar to you, that we don't quite get up there high enough to really experience it. But there are a few days you can kind of see it, I feel like, where, there's a heat wave across the nation and, the Midwest. And you'll kind of see these posts, spark up. And, I've been having issues with Tesla superchargers. Everybody's seen it. And, they're derated. Yeah, so I saw a lot of that this summer. This was probably the first summer that I really saw people posting like, I'm actually preferring EA over superchargers because I'm having so many problems with them derating, which I had never ever seen before, and I think somebody had talked about too that with their thinner cables that they're more susceptible to overheating than Electrify America and some others. I think that's part of it. But honestly, the biggest problem that we've experienced at Tesla superchargers, which is weird because I feel like this wasn't an issue before, but especially in the last like 6 to 8 months, they will just not activate. We'll plug in, and we had this happen twice on our last road trip, where the 2 different Tesla superchargers, where it just would not start the charge. And it was weird because you couldn't, like, you go in the app and it's like, it says, well, performance issues are automatically detected. Well, if it never starts, it's not necessarily a performance issue because the charge never started. And there was no way for me to report that it just wouldn't start. And now you got to remember, we're adding a little bit of complexity with the adapter. So you never know if that's part of it. I know Martin texted us today and said he had an issue with the V4 and an adapter that he was using as well, and then changed adapters and it worked. So you never know like what's causing the issue, man. It's hard to really nail it down sometimes.
Yeah, and we'll kind of great transition into some adapter content. First shout out to Sean P582 there. Just giving me some love, man, saying, hey, Chris, love your content, brother. I'm an EV owner, and your videos have been helpful. And we always love to hear that. We've heard people say that, they bought a Lightning or got into an EV because of some of the stuff that we've talked about and some of the questions we've answered. So, Sean, man, super appreciate it. I mean, it's always cool, especially as a small podcast, a small channel for my Bo family EV. Like, those things are super awesome, man. Like, when I see that, you never know if if you don't see the comments, if people don't engage that way and they don't always, say it, and then you don't realize like, oh man, people are listening, which is super cool. And again, like we got 40 up to 43 people right now on a late night. I mean, it's almost tomorrow on the East Coast. If any of you guys are on the East Coast, drop a comment. It'll be our first ever live Friday morning episode.
Actually, that's hilarious.
right. It's coming up on the witching hour out there where you're at, Jason.
It is.
So yeah, thanks, Sean, man. I super appreciate the love there. And then Joe just talking about, definitely it's easy to get those kilowatts and kilowatt hours mixed
I've
up.
done it a million times.
Yep, constantly, all the time, man. And but he was talking about a road trip from Phoenix to Oceanside, 111 degrees, which is crazy. But then it dropped after like 4 minutes. It dropped all the way down to 80 kilowatts, and he went out and did a charge at Quartzsite, which I've actually been to when I drove to the Grand Canyon. That was it. Quartzsite is, for those that don't know, in Arizona, if you're coming from like California, Nevada, going to Arizona, Scottsdale area, Phoenix, Scottsdale, the only charger kind of along that route is the Quartzsite. 70 stalls. They got a great little store where there was some amazing beef jerky, guys. If you're in that area and you love beef jerky, go by Quartzsite. But yeah, I've got a video of me going to the Grand Canyon and a couple things. Check that out on my Bow Family EV channel, and you'll see I went to Quartzsite, but it was in the spring. We did not want to go. We spent Easter there and went to the Grand Canyon, went to Arizona, and it was a total moderate weather. It was amazing. But the summer, I'm sure, is a totally different deal. So yeah, it took them over an hour to charge at Quartzsite. But I got to think you're probably seeing that is more of the heat. Sean's out in Atlanta, so yeah, you're about to hit Friday. Welcome to Friday, Sean. Thanks for joining us on a Friday morning, keeping you up late. That's awesome. Yeah, it is. And but for this whole month, because I went off to Europe, went and spent some time in Norway and in the Netherlands, and got to check out, went on a family trip out there, which was amazing. I've got more videos even to come. There's an out of spec video with William roaming Norway that's going to drop on Sunday. Nice. So for those of you that are into that kind of stuff with William and out of spec bits, that video should be dropping, I think, Sunday. And so that'll be fun to kind of share the time in the Zeekr and the trip that we took there. Eventually I'm going to put together some of the cruise ship videos, which has nothing to do with EVs, but I'm going to put it out there for the fun of it. Joe confirming, yes, the jerky is awesome. Yes, I agree, man. Check out the jerky at Quartzsite. But yeah, so I needed some content for this month. And so I've been doing a bunch of charge adapters because I don't have any road trips or anything really going on. So I've just gone through a series of them, man. And it's really gone the gambit from, this is the original Tesla adapter that I've got, the one that we got, Jace, when Tesla chargers first opened. This one is from a company called EV Base. I swear to God, these came out of the same factory. My background is making it hard to see, but these things look identical. Yeah, I mean, they look dead on. And now I will say that it performed great too. It's even got the little safety interlock down between the two DC pins, which is a rarity. So I did a test with the EV Base. You can check that out on the channel. That was a really cool one. And then that's kind of where it stopped. Like that one from EV Base was really well done, essentially because they just completely copied the Tesla adapter. And then there's this one from Foxprod, which goes by many names on Amazon. So this form factor here, which almost looks like a pregnant Tesla adapter. It's a similar size and a similar weight, but this one doesn't have the interlock between the DC pins, which in and of itself isn't a problem because A to Z also does not have that interlock pin. They do it a different way. So this top button has a switch that you can hear, but this bottom one where the charge handle, where the Tesla supercharger handle plugs into the back, the button that releases this button is not a switch. It locks and unlocks, but it allows you to unplug it live when it's fully charged, which can cause arcing. And this got into a whole thing with Brandon Flash on the Hanshaw extension, because it has this is a common thing with these Chinese manufacturers where this button on the bottom and that the Hanshaw extension cable for NACS to CCS does the same thing. There's no switch here. So I I passed along that feedback. They took the feedback very well.
Yeah, I
which was
think I
nice.
saw your post on that today or yesterday or this week.
Yeah, so that was super cool, but a couple of their adapters did the same thing. So then I tested this one, which is another interesting form factor. This is from EV Dance, and all of these, by the way, held that charge curve I talked about earlier. They all of these, the EV Dance, the Fox Prod, and the EV Base, all of these held the charge curve exactly as you would expect, hitting the high 170s, low 180s, holding the 135, then down to 120, all the way to 80%. This one, interestingly, and I don't think it had anything to do with the adapter, by the way, at 80%, I was getting 65 kilowatts. I have never seen that. That was, again, I don't think it has anything to do with the adapter. This adapter's kind of thing is this interesting form factor. I have dropped these. I don't know if you've dropped the adapters before, Jace. This has
Not
a big,
yet.
nice. No, dude, I've totally dropped them a couple times. This one has a big handle on it, which makes it really easy to hold, and it even gives you just a tiny bit of an extension. But this one's got an even weirder, like, again, no, this is not a switch on the bottom. And this one's not a button. This one has a rotating, like a rotating lock. And so what was weird about this one is even in the, so do you remember the old A to Z, the original A to Z that had a latch? Did you have one of those?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, and those original ones, if it was unlocked, it would not charge. That was the thing. So the only way you could pull the charge handle out of the back was to unlock it. And the moment you unlocked it, it wouldn't charge. In fact, that was some of the problems people would have is they'd say, my A to Z adapter doesn't work. And it was because they didn't properly lock it.
You had to push really hard too, especially like the first time you used it. It was like really tough sometimes to get it in all the way.
Yeah, exactly. And so now A to Z, to their credit, they recalled that adapter, they took it back, they redesigned it, and they have their new one that I'll show. I guess it's not really so new anymore, but it's an amazing design. It's my favorite one. But this one from EV Dance performs great, but it's got this weird rotating lock, and the lock, unlike the A to Z, it doesn't have a switch in it. And so what happens is whether it's locked or unlocked doesn't matter. It'll charge, it'll be energized. You can unlock it, lock it, and it doesn't make any difference. So it relies on the user using it correctly. And so I gave them that feedback as well. And again, credit to EV Dance. They took it well. EV Dance makes extensions for AC charging, not for DC, but for AC at the house. They have great products. But this one, I gave them that feedback, because so many of them are doing that, where that bottom switch isn't, I shouldn't even call it a switch. It's a latch or a button, but it doesn't turn it off. And then the last one I had was a company that I had never actually heard of before. And they're called Hugner. Have you ever heard of Hugner before?
No.
Yeah, I'd never heard of them either. And this one almost looks a little bit like the Ford Electron one.
Okay, yeah, it does. Yeah.
Similar form factor to that. And again, it's this habit, where this bottom button that latches and unlatches is not a switch. So it doesn't de-energize it. And I think this is the big thing for the Chinese manufacturers. They've just got to put something there. And so many of these, when you go to Amazon, they will say safety certified, UL listed. And what it turns out, if you look up, because it'll tell you like the numbers of them, when you look it up, it turns out it's this plastic cladding that's around it is UL listed, or the wires inside are UL listed wires, or the weatherproofing, like IP, whatever that is UL listed weatherproofing. But the adapter as a form factor is not UL listed, but they're kind of playing with words, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Yep. Interesting.
And then this one is kind of doing what you said. So this video hasn't posted yet. I posted a video today on the EV Dance. So folks can check that EV Dance video out. But this one will post Sunday morning. If you guys want to check out a total fail, it's already up as a premiere on my video, but this is the only one I've ever had fail. It twice shut down the charge. And I don't even know if it's fair to call it a fail, because I think I overheated the thing. When I checked the temperature, it's the only one that even in a moderate Bay Area climate was reaching near 120 degrees when I took the thermals on it. And in fairness, the UL listing standard, I think, allows you to go to 130. And there are sensors in this, to their credit, that are, I think what they're supposed to do is that when it hits 120, I think it's supposed to derate it. And when it hits 130, I think it's supposed to shut it down. But for whatever reason, when it hit the 120 degrees, instead of derating it, it just disconnected. It lost the communication. And it did that twice. So that's the only time I've had one of these struggle. But, you know, it was like an 85 degree day. It wasn't hot, and certainly not, you know, it wasn't Joe kind of hot or
Right.
you know, the kind of heat you see in Arizona or places like that, you know?
Yeah, no, totally.
So yeah,
that's very interesting. I actually brought 2 adapters just in case. It's been a while too. So I just brought my A to Z Typhoon Pro, and then I have the Ford Electron as well, just in case. You never know.
Yeah, and that's you know, my go-to is exactly what you were just saying. So I've got the Ford one, which shout out Ford for sending these out. These are the new cool one made by Electron, and this has the interlock down the middle between the 2 DC pins. This one has the button on top and the button on the bottom. And I don't know if this will pick up on the microphone.
Yeah.
Does that? It's got an actual clicking button there. So when you disconnect that, well, one, because of the interlock, you can't even disconnect this if you wanted to, because the interlock won't let you until you remove this from the truck or car. So right away, that safety mechanism is there. But even if that were to crack off or fail, if you use this bottom button, and this is what we were talking earlier about Ford's focus on safety. This is an example of that. This button isn't necessary because it's got the interlock, but they want a redundancy there so that even if one fails, the other is there. And so this thing's been put through the ringer, man. When this launched, they ran over this thing, all of that. Joe was asking, can you get these for free? They don't come free, Joe. They when you buy the mobile charger as an option with your truck now, it comes with the mobile charger, or you can buy it separately. But they don't give them out free anymore. They just did that initial sign up period for the free ones. So unfortunately, they don't have those.
And there's not really a third one. There's still just the first original Tesla one, and then the next iteration, which was Ford/Electron, kind of joint venture there on that one. So and then A to Z is a separate company that offers one as well. But they were, if the first, right? I think of anybody, I think they had the first one.
Yeah. So the story on A to Z, and this one's actually my favorite of all the adapters. Full disclosure, in all honesty, I helped them test their early adapters. And so I had access to these out in California because ChargePoint down in Campbell is where their headquarters are. They have a NACS cable ChargePoint charger, and it's only 25 cents. It's the best deal in California that nobody knows about. And so before anybody else, I had the adapter and I was down there testing it for A to Z. So I am connected with Amin, the CEO. We've had Amin on the podcast before. I literally talked to Amin last night about the NACS to CCS adapter cable that's going to be coming out. I can't reveal too many details. Tom Malogany is going to get it first because he's Tom. So he said, hey man, Tom's got to get it first. That's what we do. But I am in the second batch of people that will get that adapter extension cable, and they're really, really focused on making sure that it is safe and ready to go. Current specs, they're looking at about 2 meters long, and interestingly, they're shooting for 400 amp support, which is incredibly rare. The Hanshaw one was only 150 or 200 amps or something like that rated. So we'll see. It's still, they're still hoping to get development ironed out and go into full production, but I'm excited to get that. But they did with that switch that we were talking about earlier. They re-engineered it, they redesigned it, and this is the new one. Now, this one doesn't have the interlock between the DC pins, which is why, Ford, for example, insists on that. But it doesn't need one because this has a single switch at the top, and you cannot go to the second level of the switch, which is what releases the charge handle. You cannot go to the second level without getting it removed from the vehicle first. Then you can press down to the second level. This is so easy to use. This is my favorite adapter, but this is also the one that Martin had trouble with on the V4. And so Martin does the same thing as you and I, Jace. I always keep this as my go-to adapter. And then as a backup, I've got the Ford Electron version, and I still have, because it's so small and compact, I still keep the original Tesla one. So I always travel with three, which is, and it's unfortunate that we even have to. But I do it for redundancy reasons, and I do it because, honestly, every once in a while I'm at a charger where somebody pulls up and they don't have an adapter. And so I like being able to kick them over an adapter and be like, oh, here you go, man. Then I explain it to them. I tell them where to get one. And so I found it useful to carry a couple.
Yeah, that's super cool. Yeah, I knew that we were most likely not going to even use a Tesla supercharger this trip, but like I said earlier, you never know what's going to happen on the trip. So I always grab it. I always have one in my truck anyway, but I grabbed the second one just to have it. And like I said, I didn't plan on. I knew I was probably not going to use one, but you just never know. So I might as well bring them.
Yeah, we're good. It's kind of catching up on the comments here. Joe just talking about he's going on 23,000 miles strong in the Lightning. No issues at all, except for a flappy door seal that got fixed quickly, which was super cool.
Nice.
Yeah, and he says, I wish they made Arizona heat-resistant adapters. I'm not even sure it's the adapter, Joe. The supercharger itself, I think.
Exactly. Yep.
Because that's where Kyle used to wrap it in those when he was traveling. He was doing his races from Colorado across, Colorado, Utah, Nevada, all those different areas. He'd wrap that handle.
And they do have thinner cables. They're easier to use for sure. They get less stiff and they're nice. But I do think there's a trade-off there.
Yeah, and they're not liquid cooled, and I think EA is liquid cooled. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah. And then Joe's other comment was, are those new adapters significantly better compared to the first ones? Are they worth the $200? I would say, I'm not sure if you're talking about the Electron Ford one or the A to Z, but I think in either case for me, the answer is yes. I think they're both great adapters. I think that the advantage to the original Tesla one is that it's 2 pounds. It's super small, super compact. I got a case from Amazon, and this thing fits right in the driver door pocket so easily. The other ones are a bit larger, and the Electron one doesn't come with a case. I don't know, Jason, do you have a case for yours? I kind of have mine in a rag.
Yeah, I ordered a case on Amazon that, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it actually happened to fit both. It was a little big for the Tesla original one, and then the second one fit, a little snugger, but actually almost perfect, if you will. It kind of fits a little cockeyed, but it works great. Oh, okay. I was gonna say we were almost at a bug where the nav went out, but why did you? I think you touched. Might have accidentally touched. Oh, I probably did when I was doing my volume on my phone. I accidentally touched the screen. My fault. We're good.
That's funny.
For a second, I was like, I thought the route ended, but it did not end. Yeah, so I do have a case. But yeah, I mean, that's an interesting question. I mean, with the A to Z, obviously the first gen was recalled, so you naturally probably have the second gen anyway if you had the first gen. With the first gen Tesla, actually a batch of those were recalled too. So probably more than likely you didn't have one of those, because to my knowledge it was only like one batch. So you probably didn't have one of those. But like you said, I mean, I really like the second versions of both better, to be honest.
Yeah, me too.
One thing you did, like you mentioned, the Tesla one's smaller, but I actually kind of like having the bigger ones because, like you said on the other one, it gives you a little extension. You don't have to pull even like 2 inches can be the difference sometimes, especially if they have, a trash can or like something stuck in between the chargers and you can't pull up quite far enough. That extra inch or 2 sometimes can make a difference.
That's what she said. I had to do that for Jesse. I had to shout out Jesse and the office, I guess. That extra 2 inches makes all the difference.
It certainly does. So that's we're getting a charge versus not getting a charge, I guess. So
right. Yeah, and then SD Fuzzy was asking about experiencing any issues with weight on the charge port when DC charging. Tips or tricks? Talk a bit more about that, SD, if you're still on there. I haven't had any issues in terms of just with the weight of the adapter or anything, if that's what you're meaning, or the cable kind of pulling down
And I
on
think
it.
it kind of pulls on it. It kind of sits down, especially if you're in a tight on a tight, supercharger. Yeah, I haven't really seen anybody, I haven't really seen a lot of charge port issues on the Ford EVs, period. Here and there, I see people get a charge port replaced, but normally when I see it, it's because they rammed it into their garage door, or, something disastrous happened, or they got into an accident on the highway like me and put it all the way into the suspension.
Yeah, Tom Malogny famously left his charge port door open because he was just moving his truck for a little bit, and then I think he smacked it against his Ego snowblower and
Oh,
popped the
yeah,
charge port door off of there. And he's got a video of him replacing the charge port door on his Lightning. It's a pretty cool video to watch.
that's cool.
Yeah, and I think this is where okay, there. Yeah, Steve just kind of adding clarification. It says it just seems like a lot of weight hanging on the connector, and it does. You can see, especially with the cables, some of these things when you're stretching it, it does seem like it. But so far, all the road trips I've done and the travels, I haven't seen it be an issue yet. I will say that this is why some people also like the A to Z, because you can take the A to Z and plug it in first, kind of get that nice assertive, firm click, and then you can put the charge cable into the A to Z. Which is easier than when they're connected and you're trying to get that angle and you're trying to connect it. And sometimes you don't get a really good seat. And there is some weight there and there's some strain, and you kind of unfortunately do have to take up two stalls a lot of times, and you got to look where the bollards are. And, tips and tricks as far as that is anytime you have it possible, and isn't always, I try to look for pull throughs. I try to look for some of those. Sometimes there's Tesla stations, at least out here in California, where one of the stations will have the charge port located on the back side of the car, where a Tesla owner will pull in nose first, like if they were towing a trailer or something like a Model Y or X, and they have it set up so that you can pull in nose first instead of backing in. And in those, when I flip the truck around, it sometimes allows me to or to on the side or in a different angle to kind of plug directly into that right next to it. Or sometimes they'll put those chargers on the where they are nose in, so that I'm still taking up two chargers, unfortunately. But it's in fact, all my videos, if you look at all the videos I did of charging adapters, it's one of those where the charger is on the front side of the truck. And so I'm still taking up two chargers, but there's no cable strain whatsoever because of the location of where the charger is. Do you guys have that there in the Midwest where the chargers are sometimes like a nose in configuration instead of backing in?
Yeah. And I'd say like usually it really just depends. It's funny. Like you'll see some EAs with the normal next to you, so you can like almost pull through, but not, the end is still capped off. There's a funky supercharger site in Taylor, Michigan. I think you've seen that one. Kyle Connor has tweeted it out as well. I've charged at that a couple times on my way home from Ford, in Dearborn, and it's they've got like ones everywhere. It's like around like the cabinets, and they've built the superchargers basically around the cabinets in the middle of a parking lot.
Yeah, they just try to fit them in wherever they can.
And so like that one has a couple pull through spots, but then a couple that are like a normal supercharger, pull up and you would back in, or back in for a Tesla. So it really just depends. It's kind of like all over the place, and really usually we only have 4 or whatever. If it's a supercharger, maybe 8 or 10. But the new superchargers are mostly the ones on the turnpike that they put in last year. There's 7 along the back, and then they have that one little offshoot one that kind of sits sideways, so people can use that for trailering.
Yeah, that's one of those things that I think will get solved if they can roll out these V4s. I mean, the V4s any minute now should start, going in there. Now they've got so many superchargers, and so many superchargers that are also 40, 60, 80 units. It's going to take them a while to update all those. For God's sake, there's still V2s out there. So I think we're stuck with these for a while. Adapters will be in our life for a while. I mean, hell, we still have Chatamo out there. In the world. So which was another thing interesting in Europe. They were using in Norway has a lot of Leafs. So there's still Chatamos out there, and there's A to Z also makes interestingly a Chatamo adapter. So I think adapter is going to be with us for a while. These, I think the Iana's got the right idea. Power Up America is doing pull through stations. I know for their Kentucky and for their other ones. So shout out to
both
Josh.
NACS and CCS too, right?
Yep, NACS and CCS. So Josh and Jesse definitely trying to do those the right way. And then I think it's interesting. Tesla is kind of slowly. They've still always got the best reliability and the most numbers, not just number of superchargers, but number of connectors at a supercharger stop.
Yes.
But they may have slipped a bit when it comes to their, what they do, because they were really designed, and this isn't their fault. I mean, they were designed originally around the Tesla cars and the Tesla charge curve, which is a very high peak to start with, and then it drops off a cliff. It's meant to charger hop from charger to charger at, for 15 or 20 minutes and then move on. It's not meant to charge to 80%, where the Lightning is really meant to charge to 80%. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think we've seen that. And I think just the added complexity, but also the fragmentation of adding other brands. Then you add adapters onto it, right? So there's at least 2 layers right there. I'm sure there's many others in the background. I mean, I think we've seen that. And I think we're seeing a little bit of the heat issues at the same time. It is, I agree, they've slipped maybe just a little bit. I still think they're, the leader, no doubt. And like you said, still with the best reliability. But yeah, I do think we've seen a little bit of a drop, which I openly talked about. I saw this happening. We heard people say, Tesla's amazing and the supercharger network is second to none. And I agree, but there was that big caveat, right? That it should be, because they're only charging Teslas. So, and it was built for charging Teslas, like you said. So it should have been nearly flawless. There was really no reason for it not to. But we know that EA, they had to charge every brand from the get-go. They didn't really have the luxury per se of, just charging one OEM and all of the communication protocols that go into that. So, I think we've sort of seen them even out just a little bit because of that. Everybody's on the same playing field as far as pretty much charging, every OEM known to man.
Yeah, I definitely agree. EA has come a long way. They just don't have the numbers in terms of number of chargers at each station, but their performance and their reliability still, not where I'd like to see it, but miles ahead of where it was certainly at the release. Back, what was that? Rate My Charge. Remember that? I mean, that used to just be daily. You'd have these crazy reports. It
was crazy.
I did some stops as I was coming across, after I picked up the Lightning, and all but one stop was incredible at EA, my best charging experience. And the one that I had that was bad, which was in Nevada, I posted it on X, and to EA's credit, they replied back and said, hey, we got technicians out there and we got it fixed.
That's what I was going to mention, is that as well. That's funny you say that, because they have really stepped it up with their communication and social media presence. I'm seeing them even do marketing things that they never did before. They have people coming on, TikTok and Facebook and all these things, asking or answering questions for people. And even though, I see some people lambasting them, I'm glad that they're trying. They're out there trying, doing their best and being, forthcoming as much as they can, at least. And so, I really appreciate that. And I think they've kind of turned it around.
Yeah, no disagreements. And they out here in San Francisco, they opened up that 20 station right off the Bay Bridge, is like 5 minutes off the Bay Bridge. There's this great 20 stall EA, all 350 kilowatt chargers. And I hope they do more of those. And I think they've got another flagship somewhere out east, and they might be doing some more. So I think the combination is exciting of those and Iona and of course Power Up America is hopefully going to get even more now that they've lifted some of the NEVI funds back up. If we can get V4s for Tesla, and then we can just get some of these new LFP batteries that charge better. Charging is still moving forward. There was some concern that charging might stall out, but I'm still seeing growth, man. I'm still seeing expansion of these places and improvements by everybody.
Yeah. Now that NEVI's back on too, I think we're going to start to see big time funds flow, and I think that's going to be great. And we see it here in Ohio, even in Michigan too, without NEVI, that things are moving forward. We see Iona and all the Walmart, Chipotle, all these Subway, all these companies that have signed on. We'll see exactly which ones go through with it for real, but we're seeing stuff pop up everywhere, even here, where infrastructure is not as good as it is out there for you guys. So yeah, it's promising.
Well, I think that's all I've got for this episode, man. Any closing thoughts before we? How much longer do you have on your drive, man, before you get to where you're going?
Right now, ETA, we got one more stop to charge. It should be a pretty quick one, and our ETA currently is 2:52 a.m. So we're getting there, but we still got a little bit to go.
Well, man, thanks for joining us, man, and kind of letting us go along for the ride for a little bit and sneaking this first ever episode that went from a Thursday night into a Friday morning. For all you guys that joined us, and I think Joe was out there in Atlanta was one of them, and it's Friday morning for you too. So happy Friday to you guys.
Thank you. Yeah, have a great weekend, everybody, and this was fun. Yeah, maybe we'll well, I don't know if we'll be traveling again on a Thursday coming up, but yeah, we have a lot of fun stuff coming up too, though. Electrify Expo is in Chicago.
That's I know
Sergio mentioned that he's flying out, so super excited about that. And yeah, lots of fun stuff coming up. So hopefully we'll have some good fun stuff to share with everybody.
Yeah, we just had Ford out here for Electrify Expo in the Bay Area. Electric Duo, Liv and Patrick, formerly Maki Vlog, they came up. I know they did some videos, so it hasn't posted yet, but look forward to that. I make a cameo appearance in theirs. Awesome. So they were really cool. Matt came up and joined us as well.
Yeah,
Robert was there.
Yep.
Yeah, Emily was there. And that whole thing, the Electrify Expo, the very first year, shout out to Sergio. He's the one that kind of helped us form out here along with Paul, the Bay Area Lightning Club, and helped us get there at the Hornet. He has a background with the Navy. My dad was actually stationed there the Alameda. So Sergio and I got together and we kind of saw that as kind of where we wanted. And it's been there ever since now, 3 years in a row. So yeah, love hearing Sergio's involved with these, and he's going to get up there for yours. It's going to be make sure you say hi to him for me.
Yeah, I absolutely will. Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen him, so we are very excited. So
yeah, 42 people strong still watching us, but I think we're going to call it a night. Definitely for you guys, check out my Bo Family EV channel, the different charging adapters, like help me get some views and comments. Just drop anything in there to help the engagement. Helps a small channel like us. And the same thing here, all you guys in the comments. Ford enthusiasts, thank you so much. It's just chime in and saying it's been awesome. Yeah, we appreciate it. The comments, the likes, all these things really help small channels like us get other people to see us. And we are monetized, myself on Bo Family EV and Turned Down for Watt. It helps us pay for like StreamYard that we're on right now. It helps us turn when we're doing our editing of our videos, it helps us pay for that software and for Canva for the thumbnails and all those little things that, believe me, it's not making a living or anything. It's just trying to pay for the little nickel and dime things that allow us to put these things together. We love doing it anyway. We do it for free. We do it at a loss. You know what I mean?
To do it.
Absolutely. Right.
And it's, to do it. Yeah.
So but hey, if we can get those views out there, it helps us be a voice so that, some of the voices that are out there, we've seen it recently in social media, it's a one-sided voice. And so we like to bring some balance to the force, so to speak. And this helps us do that. So thanks everybody for listening and being a supporter.
Amen. Thank you, everybody. We really appreciate it. And we will see you next week.
That's it, guys. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks, Jace.
Thanks, Chris.